So let me ask you a question right off the bat. Is this argument convincing? It's something we should probably ask ourselves all the time, right? Because we are just surrounded by people trying to persuade us of, well, everything. But how do you actually tell a good argument from a bad one?
Okay, take a look at this statement. On the surface, it might sound like a pretty serious knock. But, hang on. Does someone's grades in college really have anything to do with their ability to create a healthcare plan today? Something feels a little off there, doesn't it? That feeling you're getting, that's your brain spotting a crack in the logic.
And that's exactly what we're going to break down today. In this explainer, we're basically going on a mission to decode arguments. And we're going to do it by learning how to spot these little hidden traps called logical fallacies.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll look at why some arguments just fall flat. Then, we'll get into the basic rules of logic. After that, we'll dive into the most common fallacies you'll run into, both the informal and the formal ones. And we'll wrap it all up by giving you your very own critical thinking toolkit.
So, let's jump right into Section 1, Arguments Gone Wrong. This is all about figuring out why some lines of reasoning, even the ones that sound super persuasive, can totally fall apart once you look a little closer.
The official name for the thing we're hunting down is a logical fallacy. It's just a flaw in reasoning that makes an argument totally invalid. And what's really wild is that these aren't always just innocent mistakes. Oh no. They can actually be used on purpose to manipulate you. They kind of prey on the fact that our brains love to take shortcuts.
Okay, so to spot a broken argument, we first have to know what a good one looks like. And that brings us to Section 2, the rules of logic. Think of this as the foundation for any strong, solid argument.
You know, at its core, logic has some rules you just can't break. A tautology is a statement that is always true, no matter what, like saying, it is what it is. Then you have a contradiction, which is always false. For example, this shape is a circle and it's not a circle. It just can't be. These are like the absolute north and south poles of sound reasoning.
But here is the absolute key takeaway. You can have a whole list of statements that are perfectly true, but if you don't connect them in a logically sound way, your argument is basically worthless. The structure, how all the pieces fit together, is every bit as important as the pieces themselves. And that brings us right to Section 3, Common Informal Fallacies. Now with these, the structure might actually look fine on the surface. The real error is hidden in the content. The evidence is dodgy, or it's just a straight-up play on your emotions.
First up, we've got a classic I guaranteed you've seen before, the ad hominem fallacy. It's Latin for to the person, and it's literally what it sounds like. You ignore the argument and just attack the person making it.
I mean, here's a perfect example. The actual argument about climate change, it's completely ignored. Instead, the person speaking is attacked for not owning an electric car. But whether or not someone's a hypocrite has absolutely zero to do with the scientific facts of their argument. It's a classic distraction, right? It plays on our instinct to judge the person, not the idea.
Next, we've got the straw man fallacy. And this one is sneaky. Instead of dealing with the real argument, which might be pretty strong, you build this flimsy, distorted, easy-to-knock-over version of it, a straw man. Then you knock that down, and it creates the illusion that you've won the debate, but you never even touch the actual point.
See how that works? Person 1 makes a totally reasonable point about prioritizing something. Person 2 immediately twists it into this extreme position that they want to just neglect everything else. And of course, that new, ridiculous argument is way easier to attack than the original, more nuanced idea.
And now for the red herring. This one actually gets its name from an old trick where people would use a smelly fish to distract hunting dogs from a trail. And in an argument, a red herring is exactly that. A totally irrelevant topic that gets thrown in to divert everyone's attention from what's really being discussed.
This is a textbook red herring. The city plan itself might be amazing or it might be awful, but the mayor's grades from decades ago? That's completely and totally irrelevant. By bringing it up, the speaker is just trying to change the subject and get everyone off track.
Okay, next up is one we see literally every single day, the bandwagon fallacy. It's the simple but totally flawed idea that if a lot of people believe something, well, it must be true. It's the classic everybody's doing it argument, and it works because we're kind of wired to follow the herd. You see this everywhere, right? Especially in ads. But let's be real. Popularity does not equal validity. Just because something is a bestseller doesn't mean it's good quality or that it's the right choice for you. I mean, history is just littered with popular ideas that turned out to be completely and utterly wrong.
All right, let's shift gears for section 4 and talk about formal fallacies. Now, unlike the ones we just covered, the problem here isn't the content. The facts might even be true. The problem is that the logical wiring that's connecting them is just broken.
Let's build one of these out step by step so you can see what I mean. An argument like this starts with a premise, a simple if P then Q statement. For our example, let's go with if it is raining, then the streets are slippery. Makes sense, right? Perfectly logical. So far, so good?
Okay, step 2 is an observation. We observe that Q is true. So in our case, we look outside and we see the streets are slippery. Again, this is just a statement of fact. Nothing wrong with it.
And this is where the whole thing just falls apart. The conclusion they draw is, therefore P, or therefore it is raining. Do you see the flaw? I mean, yeah, the streets could be slippery because of rain, but they could also be slippery because a street cleaner just went by, or a car is leaking oil, or my neighbor is watering their lawn again. The conclusion doesn't have to follow from the premise. The structure itself is broken.
So now that we know what to look out for, let's get to our last section. Section 5, your critical thinking toolkit. This is all about taking what we've just learned and turning it into a practical skill you can use every single day.
And here it is, your cheat sheet to becoming a fallacy detective. Always, always demand evidence. Don't ever be afraid to question the assumptions someone's making. Try to strip away all the extra noise and find the real core argument. Learn to recognize when your emotions are being played. Check for those broken structural flaws we just talked about. And finally, always, always consider the context.
Look, these fallacies aren't just some abstract concepts from a logic class, they are everywhere. You're going to see them in ads, you'll hear them in debates, you'll even spot them in casual conversations with your friends. Now that you know the patterns, the only question left is, which fallacy are you going to spot first?